What up, Gripsters and random YouTubers? Evan here for Grips.com, continuing with my review of Joan Mordan's $13,155 win in the Double Deuce on Full Tilt Poker. For those of you who missed part one, I really encourage you to check it out. Lots of good stuff there, and it's only one click away. We're now at the ante-stage of the tourney, and after losing a medium-sized pot to Gosu Possum, Joan's got 39 big blinds and plenty of room to work with. Let's get right into the action. And yeah, we're going to be just picking the hands that Joan plays, breaking them down, trying to see where he did things well, where he did things less than stellar, where he could improve. Any hand that I click through is a hand that is just pretty much an auto fold. Any hand that I don't click through is a hand that could be opened if folded to, like this ace-4 off, but doesn't necessarily need to be played. So it looks like we're going to start with a dry spell. Not too much going on, but that's okay. The luxury of building up a good stack in the early stages is that when you get to the mid stages, you have flexibility. You can go with the fast-paced lifestyle, get in there, raise, re-raise, go to work. Or you can just kind of take it slow, guard your chips, and selectively take your spots. Like here's a spot where 3-betting would be an option. If this Acnate guy is opening a lot of pots, then he's going to have to fold a lot to our 3-bet. He does have 30 big blinds, which means he has, room to open semi-wide, which makes it a decent 3-bet spot. I believe that the most important consideration in deciding whether or not to 3-bet someone is what their opening range is. And it looks like Tilton Motherfuckers thinks that our opening range is fairly wide. And this is a spot where I think we probably just want to fold. We are getting a pretty good price, but playing a 3-bet pot out of position where we're going to have like less than 3 times the pot left, like 2 times the pot left, is a spot where it's, I believe, pretty hard to play profitably. Although we are getting a really good price, we're being invited to play a losing proposition, which is a 3-bet pot out of position with not too much left to play behind. If we flop a strong piece, we're obviously going with it, and I just don't know if Tilton is going to be 3-betting us super light here. And if he's got that value range, we're looking to make a pair so we can get it in as a 4-to-1 underdog. Not what we're looking for. So Joan floats with the gutter and then does not make a play at the river. Didn't really see too much that hand I liked, to be honest. I think the open's okay, but not necessarily a mandatory open either. We're on that stack size where we're kind of shallow, so don't want to be opening too wide. It looks like we might have a little tiltiness in the mix. I'm going to reshove the 8-5 off, and I guess we're going to get there against Ace-King. Everybody tilts sometimes, and for the commenter last video who said that you want to see some videos where the player doesn't win the tournament because you want to learn from what they did wrong, well, people make mistakes in tournaments, they win too. That's an example of picking a reshove spot with a stack that doesn't have too much fold equity, 13, 14 big blinds, and also with a hand that doesn't have too much equity when called. But poker players will be poker players, things will happen, and we're back to the stack size we had at the start of the video. Question, would you guys rather raise Ace-5 suited from this position or Jack-9 suited, and why? See what we got here. Tilton has a lot of chips and is probably opening pretty wide, so this would be a spot where defending, be it by flatting or by 3-betting, are both valid options. On the small blind 3-bets, I clicked too far too fast. If he knows that Tilton is opening a lot and he's going to adjust by 3-betting a little bit, this would be a decent spot to just cold 4-bet all in. we'd be looking to pick up 5K, about a 30% chip up, with a hand that has some equity when called by the pairs, by the ace queens. Obviously, we're in bad shape against ace king and aces and stuff, but us just having a jack and a king decreases the chances that our opponents have those hands containing those cards as well. Not a spot that you need to take all the time, obviously, but I felt that it is worth mentioning. You know, if you cold 4-bet once every 4 tournaments, you're probably doing it enough, and that was a spot that was pretty good for it. I apologize that the anti-chips are covering the blinds sometimes. I will fix that for the next part. Okay, we got 9s. This guy seems to be a fairly active player, so I think 3-betting and getting it in is a fine play. We are somewhat deep. I think about 30 blinds. Yeah, 30 blinds. So flatting is also an option. Like, getting in 30 blinds with 9s, it feels like it's a lot of chips. At the same time, though, it's 9s. It's a 6-handed situation. This guy's opening a lot. And if he thinks we can 3-bet light, he could 4-bet us all in with like small pairs and stuff that we really have crushed. If we're going to achieve that, though, we have to 3-bet to a size that makes it look like we're 3-betting light. And a full 3x really doesn't accomplish that. I'd rather see a 2.5 or 2x 3-bet to achieve that. Flatting is also definitely an option this deep. And on this board, I think we just have to continue to rep what we were repping as the pre-flop 3-better, fire out something like a third of the pot, and hope to take it down. Joan checks and turns the nards. Nice spot to be in. Third pot now, checking back again. I guess he's putting Bismarck on like kings or queens or 10s or a weak jack and thinks he can only get 1 bet out of them. So instead of going for 2 medium-sized streets, he just goes for 1 big one on the river. And, you know, well analyzed. Bismarck may have called a small bet on the turn, but I don't think he calls a turn and a river bet. So I like Joan's option of just going for 1 bet, but making sure that's a real big bet and doing so on the river. I think if we check back the flop and bet the turn, having an ace is still definitely possible. But when we check back twice, we really look like we don't have an ace, and that's why we get looked up by the queen there, the jack. Okay, so we're on a new table. We got 35 blinds. We got queen, queen. And I don't imagine we're doing anything other than insta-calling. We got that old call any button on stars. We click that box. And we flipping. Aw, man. Like anyone didn't think it wasn't coming. Nice hand, Joan. I'm going to speed this up just a little bit. Fold. And now we got the king. So we're starting to catch a little card rush on a new table. Hit him with the min piece. And, well, pretty easy spot once again. I don't think there's anything wrong with George's play to reshove the king-queen suited there for like 16 blinds. We're a big stack player. There's a good chance we're going to be opening fairly wide. But I will throw out there, guys, it's important to not just automatically assume that because someone has a big stack, they're opening wide. Some people just run really good with the cards they get and build a big stack by coolering people. And if you bet your whole tournament on a read that someone's opening a lot of hands just because they have a big stack, you may find yourself tossing your tournament away in a pretty risky spot. So, well, it's fair to probably assume that someone has a wider range when they have a big stack. It's not an automatic certainty. It's important to differentiate between a possibility, a likelihood, and an absolute certainty. So I don't know what this guy is doing leading into us on the flop, but we're obviously not folding ace-king. And the question is if anyone would just raise here to kind of like seize control of the pot. These leads are generally very weak, and I wouldn't expect, especially in the double deuce, someone to lead and then re-raise if we popped it up. So betting 4K here to kind of like get ourselves to showdown and giving us the option of checking back the turn or barreling the turn is pretty cool. Calling is fine because we have a good price. We might have the best hand. I've found in my experience that raising here to be more effective than calling. But for min, we're just going to call, and he's going to show us the 8. Which is about right. I think we'll see an 8 or a 7 here a bunch. But the question is how strong of an 8 and how much heat can he take? And it really depends on how the board runs out. I think on the river we could probably throw it away, but it's so hard to fold getting this 10-to-1 price, this 9-to-1 price, which is why, as fishy as it is and as annoying as it is, it's actually an interesting line worth thinking about to go with those small lead-outs into people, because people just don't ever fold to them. All right, so ace-king suited, I don't know why we're raising bigger. We've been min raising a bunch. We should probably continue to do that. These deuces should be a fold. Nice. We have nothing invested in the pot, and there's no need to just voluntarily get into a gambling situation. Obviously, there's a little bit of overlay with the blinds and antes out there, but there's also a lot of players left to act behind us who could possibly wake up with a hand. Are we going to call for the infinite odds? No, and I think that's good discipline. 10-7 suited, probably want to call. 10-9 off, probably want to call. 10-7, pushing it a little bit. If we're calling with 10-7 off, are we calling with stuff like 5-8 off? How far are we willing to push the envelope? I know that the price seems very good, and the pot odds are good. You have to be very aware of your post-flop abilities if you're going to take, your post-flop abilities if you're going to take those spots. Obviously, it's great to take good pot odds and see flops, but you're taking the odds because you think you can win the pot often enough. And if your post-flop game isn't that strong, just stick to playing the really strong hands in the really good spots. So this guy's reshoving 25 blinds, which is quite a lot. And it's for the majority of our stack. Folding ace-king here is something I never do. And I think most, if not all, good tournament players just will not fold here. Although Goral's shoving a lot, his range is probably 10s through ace-king. If he has aces and kings, there's a good chance that he's going to do something different other than just shove all in here. So I think we're flipping or chopping a lot. The question is, does Joan want to flip here? And does Goral ever have ace-queen? If he never has ace-queen, it makes it much less of an enticing spot because, you know, we really are just taking a 50-50. That being said, if you look at our pot odds in the top left corner, we only need 44% equity to make this a profitable call. So, you know, we're going to make money. We're going to make chips making this call. We'll check out the range on stove. Just to confirm it. But we'll give him the top 3%. And we'll give ourselves ace-king off. Apparently we're losing chips against that. Interesting. Maybe, if we take out the nines, maybe we don't have to call here. It's really interesting because I don't know anyone who like folds ace-king. And whenever I mention the idea of folding ace-king, they look at me like I've completely lost it. I've gone insane. And sometimes I just think it's an okay play. The real thing is about this hand is we have to risk pretty much all our chips. If we lose here, we have 7K. We have 4 bigs. And that's a shitty position to be in. I don't think I'd fold because we're not quite at the point in the tournament where we've got it locked up and we're going to win. So I'm gambling. And Joan takes it down. But there are some stages of the tournament where you could say, you know what? My stack's good enough. I don't need to take this gamble. I'm comfortable with where I am. I think I can get a lot done with what I have. So I'm just going to roll with this. Okay. Nice flip though. Nice win. How are our odds here? 1.7 to 1. We need 37%. It's a pretty live hand. This hand runs well. And we have a lot of chips. I would like to see Joan call here, but I understand if he wants to fold. It's just when you're getting odds that are that good and you can afford to gamble, you might as well. Like we're risking 10% of our stack. Win or lose, it's going to affect our flexibility like 0. So what's the harm in going for it? All right. Time to start stealing. Yes, but people are opening for 3x, so we can't. We can't open steal. Could consider 3-betting them. We got to get through more hands, though. King Jack. Good looking hand, but no need to open too wide in early position. Obviously, if you think your table's very weak and you think you can get away with it, by all means, open as wide as you think you possibly can. But hands like King Jack offsuit, King 10 suited, even Ace Jack, like they aren't must raises, must opens. And I like this play. Blinds have 20 blinds each. Once we call the 13,000, we're not going to fold for another 20,000 more. We're going to be priced in. So the option of shoving here rather than calling gives us the best chance of folding out hands like small pairs, which, although we're 50-50 against, we'd rather not have them in the pot. We'd rather go heads up with whatever Jedi's range is. So I like the reshove ISO. Unlucky to run into aces, but hey, that's going to happen sometimes. And we that would have been pretty sick if we managed to win that pot. So, guy opening on a short stack, I think folding is fine. And now we have, it's important to look at this every time the blinds go up. We have 26.5 big blinds. So on this stack size, I think Joan is going to go into protection mode and not open too wide, because shit like this can happen. You open, you go for a steal, and the guy with the chip says, all right, buddy, you want to play for all of it? I didn't think so. And whenever, you know, you're in that spot, like here we're going to raise though. And it's kind of funny that he increases his raise size here, because like, oh man, I got 3-bet when I min raised. Maybe if I make it bigger, they'll just fold and let me get it through. And I totally know that mindset. It's really funny. And what are we looking at here? 1.72 to 1, half our chips. It's a pretty good price. I think I'd like to see Joan call here, but he doesn't. Let's look at this guy's range, because this one is a pretty interesting spot. You know, we think, well, if he has ace king and ace queen, I'm dead. And that's true, but you got to think about all the hands he can have. Let's just give him top 10%. Does this seem reasonable? I think it's reasonable. How's our equity? 43%. We need 37. It's a call. What if we give him all the pairs? It's more of a call, even if we take out some of these broadways. Which I think is being really, really nitty, and it's still a call. So unless the guy is only shoving the top like 7%, then it's a call. So that's the range he would have to be shoving, and most people are shoving wider than that. So although it feels like it sucks to call off with ace jack, you're going to be amazed at how often he has 9s, 10s, and king queen here. So if you're going to raise the hand, you should call. That being said, if you're not willing to call the all-ins of people who might go all in, just open fold the hand. Nothing wrong with that. And I really hope we're not going to fold this one too. See, the guy just shows up with 8s. We even raised from an earlier position. So he's going to have a tighter shoving range, and he had 8s. So you can see why maybe the ace jack could be more of a call. These are the spots you'll learn with practice though. Whoa. 4x. I like Joan's play. When someone 4x's, they usually have a strong hand. And when you have a big pair pre-flop, you want to get that money in pre-flop. Before a flop comes, it's going to scare off your opponent. So I like the 3-bet. I think the sizing's fine. Big, but not too big. And Robin's probably just going to, wow, nice flop. So we do have the joint. This is a spot where you could maybe even consider betting like really small, like 6,000 or 8,000, to make the guy feel like he has a little bit of room to shove it in. It's very unlikely he's going to bluff, but you might as well give him the opportunity. If he's looking down and has 2 8s, and he sees you bet 4,000. There's a much better chance he's going to do something than if he sees you bet 16,000. He's like, oh, the guy's never folding to me. Something worth thinking about. All right. Not going to play that. Not going to play that. And this guy in the big blind, he don't give a shit. So I'm loving our position. We got 50 big blinds, 100,000. We can raise A7 offsuits on the button. And we're picking up, there's a lot out there. We're picking up 5K anytime we can take down the blinds and antes. If we can 3-bet people, we can take down 10K. These are very significant chip ups. And at this is the point where I like to see Joan start opening up his game, taking a few more spots, because there's so much more up for grabs every hand. That being said, we don't want to take every spot, because people see us taking every spot. They're going to be over us, and they're just going to start playing back. But that's when we pick up kings, and it's all good. So question here is 3-bet or flat? And really depends on the player. I think against a loose player, flatting's cool, because we want to let him catch up just enough to get it in bad. And against a tight player, I think I like a fast play because, well, most of his hands are good hands, and good hands are willing to put in more money. They don't love it, but they're still going to put in more money, so we could make it like 10-4, 11K here, try to get that action. I think Mark Rhea has been playing fairly loose, so flat there is an option, but like you can never go too wrong with 3-betting a big pair. You know, it's always going to be at least okay to 3-bet a big pair. So when in doubt, just pop it back up. It's all good. You gonna see it open with the 4s? Cool. They're just gonna let us do our thing. This is the point of the tournament where it's so nice to have chips. And this is why we attempt to build a big stack early or in the mid stages if we can. By the way, we can definitely raise that ace-5 suited there, just given our stack and given that it's just a pretty sweet hand. This is why you want to try to build up those chips early, is so you can take advantage when there's not just a starting stack in the middle, but multiple starting stacks up for grabs every hand. Think about that. At the start of the tournament, you would need to get, you know, pair over pair to pick up 3,200 chips. Now you just need no one to get dealt a good hand and you're in. Okay. This is a pretty sweet hand, King, Queen of clubs, and Jackson is probably opening a lot. I hate folding here. It's just such a good hand. Question is whether to 3-bet or flat, and both are options. If Jackson's opening really wide, which I believe he is, our 3-bet should take it down fairly often pre-flop, and if not that, we should be able to take it down on the flop fairly often as well with the c-bet. This hand also hits boards really well and can dominate some of the hands that he may call our 3-bet with. Speaking of domination, we most certainly dominate his range for opening, so flat calling here can put us in a really advantageous position if we're able to flop a pair. Also, many straight draws can be flopped, flush draws can be flopped, we can play them aggressively. I understand that Joan probably didn't want to mess with the other big stack and was having a good time and just kind of picking up pots where he could. But it's not like we're playing for the whole stack here. We're putting in 1.5 big blinds if we flat. And if we 3-bet, we're putting in 5 or 6 big blinds. The only way we're going to go to the felts is if we have a super strong hand, and this guy needs a super strong hand too. Obviously possible, but hey, the guy's opening from late position. He's got a ton of chips. He's going to have a wide range. We're not going to find ourselves getting coolered all that often. All right, on to the next one. I totally understand the paranoia, though, of worrying that if we play this hand, if we get involved with this hand, we're opening ourselves up to losing. Call. Nice pot odds. And there's always the thought, something I mentioned in earlier videos. Hold on. How many chips does Helmuth have here? I need to see if it was 15,000 or 150,000. Okay, 3-betting with the intention of calling him off is perfectly fine. This guy's 47K. This is gross. So our price is really good. 3.25 to 1. We're getting 2.63 to 1, so we need 28%. Like, I'm pretty sure even against Ace King, the fact that we're suited is going to give us 30%. And against Pocket Kings, we have 30%. So it's not something we love, obviously, because this guy's cold 4-betting all in, but I think the price is just about right because of how much money we've committed to the pot. If we 3-bet smaller, or if we just flatted and Markery then moved in over the top, we won't be getting the same kind of odds, and it's easier to find a fold here. But yeah, price is pretty good. So should probably call. But it's the same thing as before. If Joan's really content with his 100K, which it seems like, I wouldn't be super surprised if he folded. So he calls, and it's a beautiful spot. It's a beautiful spot. We got amazing odds, and we're flipping. And we're going to see Hellmuth's cards. Damn, he has 2 of our outs dead. Cool thing is, at this point, whatever Hellmuth has, as long as we can beat the other player in the pot, Markery, we're going to at least break even. So we aren't like super upset if Hellmuth has Ace King. If he has it, whatever, it's not great, but it's not terrible. So maybe, just maybe we can catch a piece or a flush and scoop. All right, and I think that's going to be a good place to end part 2. Again, I kind of like ending videos on a point where Joan doesn't win a massive pot, because it reminds us that tournaments aren't always smooth sailing. You don't just go wire to wire chip lead and crush these things. There are a lot of ups, especially in the ones you win, but there are also some downs that you have to be able to get through and not get too tilted about if you want to be able to seal the deal and get the job done. Anyway, if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to the channel. There's a button on the video right there, boom, so that you can be informed when upcoming parts are released. There's going to be a new video coming in this series every single day. So if you want to step your game up, subscribing to this channel is probably a good idea. If you've got any questions about hands, please post them in the comments, and Joan, myself, and all of the Gripster community will be happy to help you out, clear things up you're confused about, and get those mental juices flowing. And of course, if you want to join Team Gripst, just make your way over to gripst.com and sign up. It's free, it's easy, take you 2 seconds. Always a pleasure. This has been Evan for gripst.com. I'll see you tomorrow. In the meantime, go out there and get stacking.